Hi everyone, it's Will here, your fellow car enthusiast, and this week I'm driving the 2025 Ford Mustang GT California Special. So got my shirt here, and I've got my Ford Built Proud hat representing. And this model is very unique in the sense that it's got the convertible. So California Special is a convertible model, but and of course the V8. So GT is the designation for Mustangs with the V8. And this one's got the 6-speed manual transmission too. So it's a lot of fun, with the top down. You control the revs and when to shift, and you can really enjoy the sound of that great engine. So the highlight of this car really is the engine, and I would say the comfort too. It's otherwise a muscle car. It's not meant to be quiet and vibration free and smooth. Well, it is smooth in a sense. All V8s are pretty smooth, but it's a muscle car, so it's got its unique personality and it's polarizing. It's not for everyone, but I personally love it. I love the sound of the engine, the nice deep masculine rumble of the V8 engine. And I would say too that I think currently right now among new cars, the only models that come with a manual transmission and a convertible would probably be the Mazda Miata, I think. But that car is a little small and it handles very nicely, but to me it's not really as masculine. But otherwise, this Mustang is very, very good. So very well equipped inside. You got a nice heated steering wheel and a flat bottom steering wheel with some carbon fiber accents. And then the interior is otherwise very nicely laid out. The only thing that I don't like is the fact that it doesn't have physical buttons for the climate controls. So, you can get used to it. But the thing is, if you're driving this thing during winter or when it's cool and you've got gloves on, it's not as easy to change the controls. And you got to take off your gloves. So just something, that's just a small annoyance. But at least there's a physical knob for volume control for the sound system. So otherwise, everything else is logically laid out. It's got some really neat features. So I'm going to go into detail on some of my most favorite features and some unique touches in terms of design. But otherwise, really, really fun car. Again, very polarizing. American muscle is not for everyone. The Ford brand is not for everyone. And, for me, as a car enthusiast, I like all cars. Every car and every type of car has their strengths and has their weaknesses. So keep watching to learn more about some of the neat features on this vehicle. So it does have a power fold down top. The only thing is that there's a lever that you gotta pull down and turn in order to release the power top. And then when it goes back up and it finishes its cycle, you gotta manually lock it back in place. So that's how it looks going back up. And the pace of the power top movement is pretty good. So let's do a quick walk around of the exterior. So this California Special Edition has this side body striping, and I really like the wheels. So it's a two-tone, it's machine finished, and that blue I think is unique to the California Special, so it goes well with the other trim components of the vehicle. And it's got broad rear fenders. I felt like they could have done a better job with the tailpipes. They could have had some nicer finishers, especially given the fact that this car comes in at over $80,000 Canadian, the way it's equipped. The reverse lights are on the bottom middle, and there's two antennas here. I don't know why. That black antenna is very out of place. But otherwise, the profile of the vehicle kind of has like a retro modern look. I think it looks pretty good overall. And again, the wheels, I really like them. You got Brembo brakes up front. Got the 5.0 symbol to let people know that you have the V8, the real Mustang engine, even though the EcoBoost is actually pretty good. Now, these are the headlights, and this is a California Special trim piece on the grille, as you see with the blue. And so it looks pretty nice overall, I'd say. I think they did a good job with the styling. They didn't make it too radical. It still looks a bit like the previous generation, but it's got a good mix of modern and retro cues. And if we pop the hood up, there's hood struts, which is nice. And you get wipers that you could lift the arm up without having to put it in service mode, which is nice and easy and straightforward. And I really like this feature too. So there's this mesh at the cowling to prevent leaves from getting in. And one funny thing is, despite the big mighty V8, it's got this tiny, small oil filler cap. I found it very funny. That's how it looks. And speaking of oil, if you're like me and you like to check the engine oil levels, this is an engineering blunder. So you've got this strut brace here. The thing is, it blocks the way to get to the dipstick. So you can see the dipsticks right there. And basically to pull it out, you got to maneuver it around the bar. So it's kind of annoying there. You can see I always check engine oil levels, especially on press vehicles, because I know that other journalists abuse them. And oil level was quite low on this engine, and I topped it up because I want to make sure that it's cared for. But you can see how annoying it is. I had to maneuver it out of the way, and it's something that is pretty unpleasant to do with that bar in a way. But if you do own a vehicle like this, it is good to check the engine oil levels, especially if you drive hard and if you plan to keep your Mustang long term. Do change the oil more often than what the manufacturer recommends, because most manufacturers, they just care that the engines last within the warranty period. And you get sequential blinking turn signals in the rear, but you don't get it in the front. You just get a regular blinking with those 3 LED bars. I like that it has a capless fuel filler, so filling up is nice and easy and straightforward. It's less messy, you don't have to deal with a cap. And let's go to the trunk now. So it's pretty spacious. There's a LED light there on the driver's side, and I like that it uses struts to hold up the trunk lid. That way there's no hinge that could otherwise cut into cargo space. So I think that's a really good design. And also, you don't get a spare tire, unfortunately, just a tire repair kit under there. And I would say too, there's another neat feature. So there's a shape of a Mustang coupe there, and there's other Easter eggs too. This is at the top of the windshield, bottom of the windshield, you get the Mustang symbol, and this is the inner side dash, and then of course you get the Mustang script on the door sills. And let's look at it at night. So you get LED license plate lighting, which is cool. It looks nice. There's a side marker just behind the rear wheel. And if we go around to the front, that's how the front end looks. There's a marker light on the side of the bumper. There's even a light on each side of that grille trim piece, which is kind of interesting. So let's go inside now. So I mentioned earlier that you do get a flat bottom steering wheel, and it feels nice in the hands. It's nice and thick. You have this blue stitching. Again, it's a California special hallmark, and this carbon fiber design around the buttons. And it's weird that the volume controls are on the right side of the steering wheel. Most of the time they're on the left. So that was kind of weird, but what I do like is that the mode button is on the steering wheel, so it's easy to select your modes, and you can see there's several driving modes to choose from with a nice graphic representing each mode. So really nice multimedia that Ford did, and I'd say that Ford is one of the leaders in screen designs and coolness. There's also a steering feel control that you could select right from the steering wheel, which again is also convenient. So yeah, the buttons are pretty good. The instrument cluster is very high res, and if we play around with more of the buttons, you can select driving information right from the steering wheel, so you can get a lot more details such as cylinder head temperature, so just some important metrics for sporty driving, and you can toggle around there. I personally like having the trip meter there just to see how many kilometers I've driven and my fuel efficiency. So if we move over to the center console here, it's nice that they still have a USB-A port along with a USB-C port. And again, the nice stitching and the carbon fiber materials run across the dash and the door panels. So I would say that this interior is pretty nicely designed. The only thing I don't like is that with the cup holder position, when you do have a bottle in the way, it does get in the way when you try to shift gears. So you can see there, it gets in the way of my forearms, and so you end up having to keep your hand there when you're shifting gears. So it would be nice if they moved the cup holders to maybe towards the front of the shifter. But here's another feature I like though. Inside the armrest storage compartment, you not only get a light, which is rare, but you also get coin holders, and then there's a power outlet there as well. And it's a pretty deep storage compartment too, which is nice. So I thought this was a nice design by Ford. So those are the rear seats. You can see 2 back there. There's decent leg room for a sports coupe. All right, here's another cool feature. So you have this manual lever for the parking brake, but it's actually an electronic parking brake. You just push it down once, and then you can disengage the parking brake, and then you pull it back up, you re-engage the parking brake. I thought that was a neat feature. Here's another clever interior feature I like. It's like a little drawer here, and you can store little odds and ends like some candy here. So one feature I really like on this Mustang is its customizable instrument cluster. It's got some nostalgia built into it. So this display happens to be inspired by the classic 67, 68 Mustang. So it mimics it a little bit, and then it adds some of the more modern display features. And you don't just get the classic one. You also get the Fox body Mustang. So this is the 80s to early 90s one. And this is the nighttime look with the green gauges. And during the day, it looks like that. And then if you're more of a 90s person, there's the Ford Mustang Cobra SVT from the late 90s into the early 2000s. You can select that mode too. So it looks like that. And then during the day, it's got white face gauges, which was a common feature back in the 90s. So those are the cool nostalgic ones. And then if you want just the regular mode, it looks like this. There's a total of 7 to choose from. And this is how the sport one looks like. It's very high res too. And this is the track mode, so the tachometer's on the top. And then if you want a minimalist look, you can choose the calm display, which has not a whole lot of stuff on the screen to avoid distracting you. So really cool. All right, so let's explore the interior at night. So when you get in, it's kind of cool. You get these cool graphics on the instrument cluster, but then there's also this heartbeat kind of sound that I think really adds to the experience. Another good interior feature during nighttime driving is the fact that the steering wheel controls light up at night. And I like that there's also a physical control for the headlights, and you can actually turn them off if you want to be a little bit more stealthy when you're driving around at night. And you get just interior mood lighting too. There's a bunch of colors to choose from. I just happen to choose the green there. Let me put the transmission in reverse so we can see the resolution of the rear backup camera. So the resolution is pretty good. There's an overhead view, and you get rear backup sensors too. You also get footwell lighting for the front passenger and a driver, which can be helpful too at night. So very nice overall inside. I'm happy with it. And even the interior lights, you get LEDs here, and you even get LED lights for the vanity mirror too. So that's something that most car makers, even luxury automakers, overlook. They just put in cheap incandescent bulbs. So I like this little detail that Ford was able to deliver on. So this button here, if you push the Mustang symbol there, it allows you to select from a bunch of other information and features. So you can choose auxiliary gauges to see more driving information, and you can, I'm just hitting back there, and then you can select from 4 exhaust modes. So there's a quiet one, and then there's other ones ranging from moderately loud to very loud. Thanks very much for watching this video. I hope it helped you a little bit if you're considering an all-new Mustang. If you have any other questions or comments about the features I've covered, or just any questions about the car in general that maybe I didn't cover, please feel free to leave them in the comments. Thanks again.